Hello friends, Black Lives Matter, Aboriginal Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter. I made a community post here on YouTube a little while ago now, affirming my unconditional support for the Black Lives Matter movement and also acknowledging the anti-racism work that needs to be done and that I am and need to continue doing. But I know that not all of you saw that post. YouTube doesn't push those posts as much as it pushes videos. So I wanted to make this to make it abundantly clear. I support Black Lives Matter. I see white supremacy as integral to the function of the capitalist patriarchy society that we live in. I understand that as a white person, I'm a beneficiary of a system that perpetuates, indeed requires, the oppression and exploitation of people of colour, in particular Black people and Indigenous folks. And that is absolutely not something that is unique to America. I live in a place that is known as Melbourne. Its real name is Naarm, and I live on the unceded territories of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. More than 400 Aboriginal people have died in custody since the 1991 Royal Commission. Aboriginal people in Australia are the most incarcerated population in the world. The Stolen Generation, a policy of eugenics and genocide, continues with higher rates of child removals from families and communities than at the height of the assimilation policies that led to the Stolen Generation. There was slavery in Australia, despite what our Prime Minister said last week. There is documented photographic proof of Aboriginal men being taken from their communities, forced into labour in chains in as late as 1949. Up until the referendum in 1967, most Aboriginal people did not have control over their own money. It was paid to and controlled by the state. Much of these stolen wages have still not been repaid. Just last week we saw I don't know how many police, dozens of police, protecting a statue of Captain Cook just days after Rio Tinto blew up a 46,000-year-old sacred site. Our media's racist reporting on Palm Islanders and how they choose to spend their money. All white panels on breakfast TV more or less calling for a return to the Stolen Generation policy. Andrew Bolt slandering the name of Aboriginal leaders and thinkers like historian Bruce Pascoe in an attempt to discredit him when he provides evidence that proves the nation's mythology of Terra Nullius is a lie. And racism and white supremacy is here too, online in the Tara community. Even the day after that video of George Floyd's murder came online, I still had white people in the comments of my unpopular opinions video playing devil's advocate, trying to argue that diversity in Tara is not important because the images are archetypes, are symbols, and therefore we don't need to represent different people and different bodies, as if an all-white deck is not as much of a choice as a diverse one is. Whiteness is not neutral. People still ardently defending racist images and the creators of racist decks. White supremacy is a system that we were born into, but it needs individuals to help keep it running. So if you're not actively working against it, you are helping it continue. I'm making this video for a couple of reasons. The first is because I want Black and brown people in this space to know that I stand with you, that I believe you when you say that you have interactions in this world that are dangerous to you and harmful. I support you and I want to be part of your fight for justice. And I'm committed to aiding in the dismantling of the system that oppresses and harms you and your communities. What I also want to do in this video is to share my commitments with you, what I'm going to be doing and what you can expect to see from me on my channel. I want to be accountable to this community, and I also want to demonstrate to the white folks who are watching some of the ways that we can participate in the fight for justice. 1. Elevating Black voices. I know a lot of people are sharing posts with a bunch of their favorite Black creators at the moment, which I think is great. I want to do things a little bit differently, and I'm going to tell you why. I like to organically shout out creators throughout my content. Usually this happens in my favorites video at the end of each month. I share a mix of things in those videos, and I have prioritized sharing smaller creators and creators from various backgrounds and experiences. I recognize though that I need to do better at seeking out and elevating Black voices specifically, so I will be making that a priority going forward. The reason I'm not giving you a big long list of my favorite Black creators today is because I'm concerned that a lot of white people are just kind of clicking subscribe on all of these Black creators but not engaging with their content long term. This kind of effort to diversify your feeds actually harms content creators in the long run by skewing their engagement rates. That's why personally I would prefer it to be organic to my content, so that way it reaches more people, but I can also recommend specific videos or content. I think there's a higher likelihood that way that the new subscribers will be authentic and will continue to support and engage with Black voices in the long term, rather than just kind of bumping up their subscriber numbers now but not increasing their views long term, which is not only not the point of diversifying your feed, it's also actively harmful to the future success of those creators. So while I'm on the topic, if you have been making an effort to reassess your feed and to diversify it, be sure that the people you're hitting subscribe or follow on are people you are actually committed to engaging with and supporting long term. Subscribing to someone you're never going to watch to make you feel a little bit better about some black faces coming up in your feed actively harms those creators. 2, be more intentional about the decks and books that I buy and the authors and publishers that I support. I often do consider diversity and representation when making purchasing decisions, but I don't think I put enough of a priority or an emphasis on that. And I need to. From now on this channel, an all-white deck is not just a disappointment, it's a deal breaker. 3, Patreon and monetary support. I've said before that I prefer to spend my money locally when it comes to supporting causes, and that is very true for several reasons. A big, really practical one is the exchange rate. The Aussie dollar ain't strong, so my money is literally worth more when spent locally. I do believe though that international solidarity is especially important when we're talking about big movements like the Black Lives Matter movement. But I will list in the description some of the organisations and causes that I have contributed to personally and along with my Patreon recently if you would like to have a look and perhaps support as well. But something I'm a big advocate for is wealth redistribution, which is an ongoing contribution to redistribute white wealth to other communities, particularly Black and Indigenous. I currently do that mainly through Pay the Rent, which is a Victorian association. I'll leave a link to that in the description below for any of you who live in Australia and want to have a look at that. And I think that's absolutely essential for achieving self-determination for Aboriginal people in their communities. And redistributing my wealth in that way in my community is really important to me. But what I do not do enough of is redistributing my wealth within my online communities. So my commitment is to absolutely do a lot more of that, to intentionally seek out opportunities to financially support the Black and Indigenous creators in the online spaces that I occupy here. And that includes purchasing their goods and services, supporting them on Patreon, etc. Because in order to thrive in this capitalist system, you need money. And as a white middle-class Australian, I have a lot of work to do in redistributing the wealth that I have that my white privilege has given me. Number 4, my content. As far as my regular content is concerned, I will continue to integrate information and issues regarding justice into my content. I want to raise issues, share books and resources, talk about problems, talk about solutions, and elevate Black voices consistently on this channel. I have made efforts to do this, but I know I shy away from it more than I should. I try to be balanced when I should be firm. I edit myself to avoid difficult conversations in the comments. I'm not a moderate, and I never have been, so I don't want people who come to my channel for the first time to be confused or uncertain about where I stand. And number 5, Instagram. I will also continue to share voices, resources, petitions, opportunities to contribute financially over on my Instagram. Due to my own personal circumstances, both practical and health-wise, my videos are usually made at least a week, sometimes up to a month in advance, which means it's hard to respond to current events on my YouTube channel. As a result, I do this a lot more over on my Instagram, and I will continue to do so. Of course, there are other ways in which I am active regarding racial and social justice, and if you don't have a platform, there's plenty of other ways that you can be too, including attending rallies and protests, town hall meetings and conventions, lobbying local and federal representatives, signing and sharing petitions, reading and listening widely, and having difficult conversations with the people in my life. But I wanted to outline some of the tangible things I'm going to be doing here on my platform so that you know where I stand, you know what to expect, and you can hold me accountable. I appreciate that for a lot of Black people, this increase in public support is bittersweet. It's positive because it's needed, but it's awful that the reason it's happening is because another Black person was murdered. I also appreciate that some of you are pretty suspicious of us white folk declaring our support right now. You're worried that we won't still be here in a month's time, in 3 months' time, in a year's time. I'd like to think that in the last 5 years I've demonstrated that this is not a fleeting issue for me, but I also recognize that I can and should be doing a hell of a lot more. I have a link below to a Google Docs that I created recently for some friends who reached out and asked, where do I start? Like relearning, unlearning the history of Australia and the true Aboriginal struggle and fight for justice. It's pretty basic, but it includes some free documentaries and videos and articles. If you'd like to get started and learn more about the impacts of colonialism and racism in Australia, then feel free to check that out. There's also another Google Docs in the description that lists lots of different resources, but also actions and donation causes that Aboriginal people and organisers have requested allies to contribute to. So please check that one out, especially if you're in Australia. That is it for this video, but it is certainly not the end for this movement or for my contribution to it. Thank you for listening. Much love. Bye.